Yes.
We are. I'm waiting for the thumbs up here. Okay. Okay. Greetings, everyone. Let me call to order the Wednesday, June 11th meeting of the zoning board, Town of Scarborough Zoning Board of Appeals. We will kick things off first by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being recorded and televised as per usual. To give folks a sense, we go through a standard agenda. We begin by reviewing the minutes of the prior meeting, and we also then approve final findings from the approved or the adjudicated appeals for the prior meeting. We then go on to new appeals, of which we have 6 tonight. So it is a rather full agenda. For those of you who are in number 5 and 6, apologies, it's just a big agenda tonight. So we'll get right started here. First off, I will ask for a roll call. Dory?
Peter Freilinger.
Here.
Kyle Noonan.
Here.
David Bort.
Here.
Michelle Stevenson. Here. Mr. Silkman.
Here.
And the 2 alternate members, I think, are going to be running late.
Gotcha. They'll be coming in late, but we do have all 5 voting members present, so we are good to go. I will then ask for the approval of minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the prior meeting? Seeing some head shakes, other than from Richard. Do I have a motion to approve?
So approved.
Thank you, David. A second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Kyle. All in favor, show of hands, please. That's 4-0, and Richard, you're abstaining because you weren't here for last meeting. That's fine. Okay. We'll now go through the action items from the last meeting. First is appeal number 2769, special exception appeal for 18 Selland Drive. That was approved. Did everyone have a chance to review the final findings? They looked like they conformed to what we discussed. So do I have a motion to approve the final?
So moved.
Seconded?
I second.
Thank you, Kyle. All approved, a show of hands. That's 4-0 approved. The second one is a written decision appeal number 2772, special exception appeal for 61 Ash Swamp Road. That was, again, I think that all met what we had talked about. That was not controversial. So if I may have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, David.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Kyle. All in favor? That's 4-0. Thank you. The third was shoreline setback determination by Eider Investments. Is that right?
No.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, that moves on to the. Yeah, that's what I thought. It was just those 2. So, okay, so we will now move on to new business then. And that starts with the shoreline setback determination by Eider Investments, Inc., 133 Wittix Neck Road, assessor's map. RO3 lot 29. We note that this doesn't have an appeal number. The zoning board has been delegated with the authority to approve shoreline setback determinations by the council. So this is slightly different from our normal appeals course of business. If I could ask the not an appellant, but if I could ask the representative for this to come forward. And if you just state your name and give a description of what the request is, and then we'll go into questions.
Sure, I'm Abby Slinker. I'm an architect with Eider Investment. We're here on behalf of our client, Rich Levy, who would like to demolish the existing house on the site, which is built on grade, and build a new seasonal building, kind of a recreational launching pad for fishing and boating on the river. Our existing building is 504 square feet, and we're proposing a new footprint of 594 square feet. Or sorry, our proposed footprint is 504 and the existing building is 594. But we are adding stairs and decks to that footprint. The building is going to be elevated about 8 feet above grade on wooden piers, and we need stairs to access that building. So that's part of why we're adding to the footprint.
Okay. Anything else to add to that, or we've got materials in here along with the plan of the site. With that, I'm going to open it up to questions from the board first. David?
Yes, just to clarify, the existing building is 594 square feet.
Yes,
And according to our notes here, it says the proposed building is 643 square feet, which is an increase of 49 square feet or 8.25%. Is that correct?
yes,
That's not what you said.
yeah, the building itself that we're proposing, the footprint of the building, the walls.
Yeah, but
It's 504
I think
plus.
the proposing stair, like a deck or walkway or
Yeah,
something,
there's some,
that counts as square footage.
yes, okay, so the total with the decks and the stair is 643, that's correct.
Peter, can I,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay.
maybe this is a question for our code enforcement officer here, but and I don't quite understand the issue of the 25-foot high average tide or whatever that HAT line is, where 100% of the building has to be within 25 feet of that line in order to permit an expansion. Would you go through that? Because it seems so counterintuitive when I when I try to understand it. It seems like if it's within 25 feet, you wouldn't allow an expansion. If it wasn't, you would, but it's the other way around. Is that correct?
Yeah, welcome to my world. Nothing makes sense in the code world. And I can't really speak to why the state's mandatory shoreland zone regulations read that way. I didn't develop them. But I think the thought is, first, the shoreland zoning ordinance prohibits an expansion of any portion of the structure that's within 25 feet of the normal high water line. In this case, it's the highest annual tide because we're a tidal community, not a lake, okay, or a river. So any portion that's within 25 feet can't be expanded. Any portion that's not within 25 feet can be expanded to up to a certain point. So there are limits on that. However, if you happen to be the unlucky person who has a 100-year-old cottage that's entirely within the 25-foot setback, if you will, they're going to allow you to expand up to a very limited amount, no closer to the resource, because otherwise you would have no alternative, to do anything with your structure. So the person who's partially within, but partially outside of 25 feet can at least have an opportunity to possibly expand a little bit of their structure. The person that's totally within 25 feet otherwise wouldn't have any opportunity at all. So in this case, what I'm showing you here on the screen is not in your packet. This came from my staff review, and I talked to Abby about it. I knew they had kind of all of the right tools, they just didn't depict it on the plan. So she put together the plan that you're seeing on the screen, which shows this blue dash dot line representing that 25-foot setback to the highest annual tide. So as you can see, there's a good deal of both the existing and the proposed structure, because they're very closely in the same place. A good deal of that is within the 25 feet, but there's also that little triangular area, if you will, that is not within 25 feet. And that's where she's proposed to take away the former outhouse and actually move it closer to the building and away from the property line, which is making it more conforming with the setback. And then connecting that to, honestly, I don't understand, and I'm sure Abby can explain why the deck is connecting the two and all of that, but that's where they're proposing the expansion. So that actually would work according to the shoreland rules as far as where you can expand that structure. To clarify David's point, she's talking about the main part of the building that's 504 square feet. Then the decks and the stairs add another 139 for a total of 643. It's right there on the plan.
And I had a little trouble just interpreting the play here that
Mhm.
the one under the outer boundary is the current building, the sort of dashed boundary outside
The red,
building.
Red,
the
yeah.
red is
Yeah.
the existing building.
You'll remember I'm colorblind, so that has absolutely no meaning to me, but I'll take you for it, take your word for it.
The dash.
It's the dash one, yeah, okay. So the dash one, okay, got it.
Yeah.
So the footprint of the new building is entirely within the footprint of the old building then?
Not exactly
Well,
entirely,
or
but
of that main structure?
Yes.
Yeah, that main
Yep.
structure, okay.
Yep.
And then, okay, you've helpfully pointed out where the high tide line is, because that's what was the other question I had about the diagrams, that I didn't quite know how to demarcate
Yeah.
those.
so the actual setback, if you were building new, would have to be 75 feet.
Right,
In this case, it would be off the lot.
correct, yeah, exactly, yeah.
But so DEP's mandatory rules say that you can't do much within that 25 foot. Then you can do a little bit more as you get past 25, but not yet to 75. And then when you get past 75, you get a lot more
Right.
ability to do
Yeah,
some
yeah.
stuff. So that's kind of how it works.
Okay, gotcha.
I just want to thank Brian for clarifying that.
Thank
I've
you.
just read this a dozen times
Yeah,
and I was totally mind boggled.
yeah,
It made no sense at all.
no,
I read it every day. It still
Oh,
doesn't.
God.
and then reading it, and then the plot lines didn't, I was confused by the plot lines, because they're largely elevation lines, they're not really, or, they're not really title lines, they're elevation lines, so was a little harder
Yeah.
to make sense of, but I think I understand it now.
So.
Part of
so
it's
Brian-
influenced by the seawall too, that kind of, that highest annual tide
Got it.
follows the seawall, which makes it kind of
Okay,
not natural.
and the seawall is not being changed, the seawall is what it is?
That's already been
Yeah,
there.
that's existing.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I do have one additional question. if I
Sure,
may.
sure, David.
Concerning the height of the building, I understand there's a restriction there as well,
Mhm.
which is 15 feet. And does that include the pylons, I assume? Is that from from grade level?
The 15 feet?
Yes.
Yes, the 15, there's a
Oh.
15-foot flood DE line, and then the bottom of our structure has to be 2 feet above that line.
Okay. And how tall is the building?
I believe it's about 27 feet from grade.
Yeah, it's 23 and 6 and 7, I guess, on the diagram.
And
that
the
you read.
maximum is 15, is that right?
Sorry, what was that?
The maximum is 15 feet?
I mean,
Right.
let me, if you don't mind, I'll clarify that as well.
Thank you.
Because that's another confusing point. So there's two things going on. You got floodplain, which has a VE zone of, is it 15? I can't even remember.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a VE velocity zone with a base flood elevation of 15. What David's asking about is the building height itself, which is limited to 15 or that of the existing structure, whichever is greater. The way it's measured is from the bottom of the sill to the highest point of the structure. So when you elevate something on posts, piers, or pilings, the bottom of the sill is actually here, which is going to be some 8 feet above grade. Then you measure for the 15, and they're actually well under that.
Thank you.
I say, looking at this, just out of curiosity, there are no other variances that would be required. This is solely a shoreline determination.
Yeah.
For this, so, okay. Michelle or Kyle? Or,
So Brian, help me out here a little bit. So the maximum height of the principal structure. That starts at, where's the
The
bottom?
bottom of the sill.
What does that mean? Like, what is the sill?
The sill is the part of the structure that rests on top of the foundation.
yeah, so not the
Okay.
pylon here, but that would be the sill right
Okay.
there.
And as I read this, that requirement is only in effect if the legally existing non-conforming principal structure is entirely located less than 25 feet.
No, it's actually anything that's, for the structure that's within the 25 feet, yes. So if it expands beyond 25 feet, it's still good. But yeah, it does apply to the structure that's within, or a portion within the 25 feet. It doesn't go away once you get past 25 feet.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is if the legally existing, or if the existing non-conforming structure
Mhm.
is not entirely located less than 25 feet from the normal high water line. And I think here we're dealing with a building in which we're not.
Yeah, but the I know it reads that way. The
Yeah.
interpretation is that for that structure, you're limited to 15 feet or the existing height of the structure and no more. It looks like it only applies to
Yeah.
a structure that's entirely within, but the interpretation is not that.
I guess what I'm saying is I don't know that we even,
You're not even here to weigh in on that.
I
You're here
agree.
to weigh in on the setback.
based
I
on
really
the-
would like the board to focus on the setbacks.
So what we're trying, we're just making a
Mhm.
factual finding.
Yep.
Is as I see it, it's actually about, well, I guess it's about the proposed construction change, about whether it is the factual finding just whether the existing, or excuse me, whether the proposed expansion is entirely within 25 feet?
That's a consideration that you need to look at. But what your primary focus is this moving the structure into a conforming setback location to the greatest practical extent or not? That's really the whole point of what you're charged with here in this case. All of that other stuff is important, but honestly, if, if you approve, they're gonna have to come for a building permit. That's when I would pull the floodplain permit application out and look at the height of the building and all of the other factors before I
Okay.
could issue the permit. It's really, I mean, it's certainly okay for the board to talk about that and understand that. I think that's important.
Yeah.
But it's not your decision here tonight. Your decision is solely on that setback.
So our factual finding is this, is the replacement structure, does it satisfy the setback to the greatest, what's the standard, greatest practical extent?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
And
I was just gonna say, so that would bring me to ask you, what other plans did you consider before finalizing on this one?
Well, we originally had the building slightly larger, and because we weren't aware that the decks and the stair would count as lot coverage, since they're perforated and, rain can fall through, and they're also elevated so high in the air. But prior to that, I don't know, maybe John can speak to that. I know it was considered to leave the existing building in its place at one point. Our client considered that, but it's just beyond repair. It's also sitting directly on grade, so it's not a good place for it to be.
I had one question. If you went back to that diagram with the triangle, or the trapezoid, whatever. So there's the deck meets the boundary of the trapezoid. Does it go to the other side of it? So is it increasing into that, or is it effectively tangent to that? The deck tangent to the trapezoid dashed line.
There is a deck connecting the two structures that's
But-
within that.
But it looks like that deck is fully within the area which is within 25, or which is
Yes.
greater than 25 feet
The
from.
deck is, but on the north side, we have a small metal deck as well. It's lighter gray.
Oh.
That one.
Oh, okay.
Then we have two smaller decks, one on the south side and one on the east side of the building, very narrow decks.
In elevation like this.
Mr. Chair, I would also add that by moving the outhouse, okay, it makes it more in conformance.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the outhouse is partially within the 25 feet.
Okay. So again, our finding of fact here is that the proposed changes to the structure and to the lot coverage conform with the shoreline zoning ordinance as it applies to changes to existing properties that are less than 25 feet from the high tide line. Okay. Then I would say, do we have a motion to approve or to find that such facts exist on this proposal?
So moved.
Thanks, David.
I'll second that.
Good. Second by Richard. If we could, any further discussion? Is there any, this is a weird one because I didn't have public comment on this one, but I don't know whether we do on shoreland.
should we add a little bit of factual findings into the record just to?
That's my question.
I
So,
think
yeah.
I mean, may as well.
You still have to do findings, like any decision, you would have to do findings. It isn't it isn't, I mean, you can open it to public comment if you
Yeah.
want, but we didn't need, with these, we don't even notify abutters because it's not a variance.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just a determination.
That's what I was thinking. So, yeah, so I'm not going to open it to public comment. I do think, I'm not sure how to go through an enumeration of findings of fact on this one.
Well, I've prepared, as always, because I'm a
Yes,
good boy,
exactly.
I have prepared some draft findings for your benefit. You can consider those, you can discuss those. You can change those, edit those, delete them, whatever you want, but those are just, again, I've gone through the application and I've looked at the plans and I've drawn out factual statements based on that. And that might help you craft some of your own.
So if that was in the board docs.
Nope,
I
it's
didn't-
in front of you tonight,
Oh, okay.
I
Oh,
think.
got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, there are 9 findings that are proposed. I'm not sure that 9 findings are relevant for the actual determination for the shoreline variance.
That's totally up to you guys.
Yeah, okay.
You know, all else equal, more findings are better than less, was my perspective.
I pay attention to the lawyer.
I like the lawyer, but I'm worried about making a finding on soil erosion or vegetation removal, for example, in the context of what we're being asked to do for this one.
Sure.
So,
Well, can we still ask the applicant or I guess the applicant?
yeah, I think it's applicant, it's not appellant. So, yeah, you can ask whatever you want. Go for it.
So, I don't think perhaps I saw somewhere in the materials, there's a reference to vegetation removal that none will occur in connection with, well, let me ask, will any vegetation removal occur?
No, I don't believe so, since we're building on the existing footprint. All of our piles fall into where the existing footprint is, with the exception of moving the outhouse further away from the setback.
Okay. Is there any potential for soil erosion from this project?
No.
I can also offer that no fill can be brought in because it's in a velocity zone. You can't bring fill in, so that would also lessen the chance for soil erosion, sedimentation getting into the resource.
Well, I don't know if my fellow board members have any other thoughts on this, but I would propose that we adopt the proposed findings that the code enforcement officer has prepared.
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Second, okay, so I will then say that is there any further discussion, I guess, for us as a group? There's not, then we've got a motion to adopt then the findings of fact and to approve the setback with a second. With no further discussion, I would say we should just call the roll. So, Doreen?
Peter Freilinger,
Yes.
Tom Noonan,
Yes.
David Bork,
Yes.
Michelle Stevenson,
Yes.
and Richard Silkman.
Yes,
The request for a determination of shoreline setback has been approved. Thanks. Can't stand these. In any event, thank you very much for your patience. Thank you for, these are not standard practice for us as a zoning board, so I apologize for what might not seem as orderly a process as we would normally want to have. With that, we will move on to the second, new business, Appeal 2773, limited reduction of yard size appeal by Trademark Inc. on behalf of Nat Thompson. If Trademark or Nat Thompson could come up and just give us your name for the record and describe the nature of the request for appeal.
Hi, my name's Ben Trout, and I'm the president of Trademark Inc. We're a local builder. And I've been charged with doing this remodel for Nat. And the designer, both to, maximize the efficiency of the floor plan, wants to just move the entranceway to the house just a few feet really. And that whole side of the house is non-conforming. So basically, no matter what we do, it's going to be in the wrong spot. But what he did do to lessen the impact of this slight shift of entry is he decreased the sizes of the decks that are on the water side, moving them out of the 75-foot setback, and taking that entryway, which is in the 75-foot setback, and getting it mostly out of it. So shifting that entryway, and it's right where it says brick walk there. That's the old part. But right above that is the proposed new entry. And there's actually, I printed up something that is kind of instructive as well, just a photograph of the existing structure. But anyways, that existing entryway, non-conforming, what we're proposing is just shifting it a few feet away from the resource, making the floor plan work better. It's closer to the driveway. And in so doing, we're lessening the impact to the resource.
Okay. With this, are there any preliminary questions before I open this up to public comment and ask for public comment? Nope, nothing preliminary. Do we have any members of the public who would like to comment on the proposal? And Brian, did we receive any comments from? Gotcha, from about this week. Okay, great. We will close the public portion of that, and we'll move on to the discussion of the requirements for the finding of the variance. First, if you could read into the record, you've given a general description and a dimensional description, and this was included in the written materials. Was the building erected prior to 1991 or?
Correct.
It was, okay. And you mentioned before that the original construction was non-conforming itself.
Correct.
Yeah. The requested reduction is reasonably necessary to permit the owner or occupant of the property to use and enjoy the property in essentially the same manner as other properties are utilized in the zoning district.
Correct. So my answer to that on the application was that typically houses have an entry on the driveway side. There's no other place to put the driveway that makes sense. It's already there, and so yes, that is a typical condition.
But again, we were reading these just for being into the record. So, yeah. Due to the physical features of the lot and/or the location of existing structures on the lot, it would not be practical to construct proposed expansion, enlargement, or new structure in conformance with the currently applicable yard size requirements.
That is also correct. There's a certain amount of stairs that you need to get up to the floor, and this is not changing that. It's just moving it away from the resource. It's doing the same job, basically a little bit smaller, and I think I answered the question.
Yeah. The impacts and effects of the enlargement, expansion, or new building on structure on existing uses in the neighborhood will not be substantially different or greater than the impacts and effects of a building or structure which conforms to the yard size requirement.
Is that on this Is that one of the?
It is, it's number 4, and you did fill it out in the form, so we're just doing this for,
Okay, so it's not, my answer to that was that it's not visible from another property. Barely visible from the street, so no, it does not.
gotcha, and that's fine. And the last one is you've not commenced construction or the enlargement, so this is not an after the fact.
Correct.
Okay, got it. With that, I think we're good, and we'll go on to discussion of the individual items as a board. And as usual, we'll start with Richard. Richard can kick us off on this one for the first one.
Well, the first criteria is obviously met. The building was constructed prior to 1991.
I don't see no disagreement on that one. Yeah. Brian, the records show that too.
Yeah, the assessor's records back that up. There was a renovation done. I think it was 98, but the original structure was there long before that.
Got it. Okay. So if I could have by show of hands, do we agree that item number 1 of the criteria are met? That's 5-0 approving that. The requested reduction is reasonably necessary to permit the owner or occupant to use and enjoy the property in essentially the same manner as other properties are utilized in the zoning district. I think it seems clear to me that other homes would have an entryway facing out into the driveway or however you get in from by car in that area. And I think this will come up on the next one, but I think the proposal has more than taken into account other mitigating elements that mean that this item has been met and in a sensitive way. So if there's any further discussion, seeing none, if I can see a show of hands, if this criteria has met in the eyes of the board, it has. Cal?
Third criteria, due to the physical features of the lot and or the location of the existing structures on the lot, it would not be practical to construct the proposed expansion, enlargement, or new structure in conformance with the currently applicable yard size requirements. I think this criteria has been met. It's because of where the driveway is and the desire of the applicant to put the new entryway adjacent to the driveway, and because of the existing the building essentially being hemmed in on basically every side by existing setbacks. I think that it would not be practical to construct the proposed project in conformance with the currently applicable yard size requirements.
Any other comments? Seeing none, do we agree this finding that this element of the proposal has been found? Nothing, thank you. David?
The impacts and effects of the enlargement, expansion, or the new building structure on the existing uses in the neighborhood will not be substantially different from or greater than the impacts and effects of a building or structure which conforms to the yard size requirements. Couple things. This is true. The proposed coverage entry is less non-conforming than the front of the dwelling in regards to the front yard setback. Also, there are other dwellings within the neighborhood, in a short distance actually, from this property, which are also less conforming.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, do we agree that this criteria has been met? A show of hands, 5-0. And finally, Michelle, number 5.
The applicant has not commenced construction, and they state, no, they have not begun construction.
And we can confirm that with the code enforcement officer? We can confirm it. So I'm guessing no further discussion. If we can, by show of hands, find that this has been met. That has been. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the request for the limited reduction of yard size.
So moved.
David, second from Richard. Doreen, if you would call the roll.
Peter Freilinger,
Yes.
Kyle Noonan,
Yes.
David Bork,
Yes.
Michelle Stevenson,
Yes.
and Richard Sookman.
Yes.
The motion is approved. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
Next is appeal special exception permit number 2774 from the Guires of 26 Ocean Ave. If they could head up to or one or more of you head up to the podium and say who you are and give us an overview of your request for a special exception.
Okay, good afternoon, council. My name is Matt Guire. My father, Drew Guire. And we own and operate Giuseppe Roasters Coffee. And we started back in 2020 as a father and son business. We're submitting this special exemption application for our home-based coffee roasting operation in good faith. We were unaware, actually, for the need of the town level approval. Believe that we had basically all things in order through our state of Maine cottage food license, combined with the fact that we've received no complaints and we've been operating for 5 years now. So we ended up figuring this out because we conducted a meeting with Mr. Longstaff, and he was the first one to bring it to our attention. As soon as we figured it out, we came right here to make sure that we were going to be in compliance. So yeah, we appreciate your time and
Yep.
consideration, and we're just looking to make sure that our home-based coffee roasting is in compliance.
So this is not changing what you're currently doing or adding to it or changing the nature of it. This is basically an after the fact request for the exception.
Yes.
Got it. Do we have any public comment? Nope. Yes,
Yeah,
David?
just very quickly. I'd just like to say you're not the only one who comes before us with a similar situation. We have a lot of these. So we'll go through it and it's painless.
And which zoning district are we in?
This is the CD, CR1 district, the Higgins Beach
Gotcha.
district.
Okay. And we have no public comment?
I received 2 phone calls, but of course, that's not written comment. So
Right, yeah.
one was very much in favor and one just brought up a point which I can relay to you, and you may wish to question the applicant about it. On the application, it does say there's no exterior evidence that the building exists. The phone call said that there is a fairly large trailer that they use to sell their coffee out of at other locations, which has the name of the business and other things on it. So clearly there is some exterior, although that's not a violation.
Right.
I just wanted to,
And it's not a
Right, but
fixed sign or?
it's
is
not
it-
a fixed sign.
Yeah,
no.
okay, gotcha. Okay, and you say it's in this Higgins Beach zone, and we don't have any further public comment?
No.
Wow. Okay,
It's not dogs, it's not plovers, and it's
okay.
it's not cannabis.
Wow. Higgins Beach, okay. So we'll go through the standards for special exceptions as this is part of the process. We'll go through and ask you to just read in your responses for the record. So the proposed use will not create unsanitary or unhealthful conditions by reasons of sewage disposal, emissions to the air, water, or other aspects of its design or operations.
Yes.
Actually, if you can give a little bit more detail. Again, this is going for the record, so
Oh,
yeah, sorry. And you've answered all these in your application,
yes.
so I just want to.
So you're on the first question? That was
That's right,
okay.
exactly, yes.
Yes, sure. I can definitely speak to that. Our operation is completely self-contained. We use a clean fluid bed electric roaster, UL listed appliance. So, doesn't create any emissions or anything harmful. The only thing that it does create is like when you roast the beans, there's a little bit of a filament that comes off. It's called chaff. And then that comes into a blower, into a collection system in a mesh bag that vents out from the basement. And then all we do is that just goes with household waste in a bag when we dispose of it. But it's very, very minimal, very low imprint operation.
Gotcha. Second, the proposed use will not create unsafe vehicular activity or pedestrian traffic conditions when added to existing and foreseeable traffic in the vicinity.
Yep, all the coffee is roasted in the premises, not a retail sale operation, no ingress egress coming into the business, people, no commotion, it's all self-contained. Generally, again, most people don't even know that it exists, so
And do you have employees on site or is it just?
it's just the two of us, yeah.
Okay, got it. The proposed use will not create, the proposed use will not create public safety problems, which would be substantially different from those created by existing uses in the neighborhood or require a substantially greater degree of municipal fire or police protection than existing uses in the neighborhood. Okay.
No, shouldn't have any impact on that.
The proposed use will not result in sedimentation or erosion or have an adverse effect on water supplies.
No runoff, no discharge. There's no water even used. It's just the beans in the hopper being roasted and the byproduct being collected in a bag.
Got it. The proposed use will be compatible with existing uses in the neighborhood with respect to physical size, visual imprint, impact, intensity of use, proximity to other structures, and density of development.
Yes, compatible with the residential neighborhood.
And is the property located within a shoreland zone?
No.
The applicant has sufficient right, title, or interest in the site of the proposed use to be able to carry out the proposed use.
Yes, he's the property owner.
The applicant has, again, we're just reading these, so yeah, these. The applicant has a technical and financial ability to meet the standards of this section and to comply with any conditions imposed by the Board of Appeals.
Yes.
And the proposed use will be compatible with existing uses in the neighborhood with respect to generation of noise and hours of operation.
Yes, very quiet, no impact, no disturbances.
Okay, terrific.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, well,
How do the coffee beans get in and out of the property?
I can answer that.
You want to? Okay.
I order boxes from a company called Genuine Origin, and they arrive in 65-pound boxes, and they come via FedEx.
Okay, so it's just part of the FedEx
Yeah.
route through Higgins Beach.
Yeah, I'll order, typically the FedEx guy will drop off 3 boxes every 3 or 4 months.
Okay, and then how does the product get out to the customers?
Then I'll roast it and package it in 12-ounce units. And then we have a website for our retail, and I'll just deliver if it's local, or we ship it. We have bubble mailers that we mail to people that are ordering from out of state. Trying to think, we almost never get anybody at the door to come pick up and order. We tag on a $3 surcharge to deliver
Okay,
in the greater Portland area.
thank you.
other questions?
Yes, regarding the trailer that has signage on it, what do you use the trailer for? Well, we have the trailer for our mobile vending ops, farmers markets, car shows, and such. We had been operating a cart for several years, and of course that limits you. You really can't serve espresso-based drinks because you don't want to put an expensive piece of machinery on a cart. So the trailer enabled us to elevate our coffee offering. Okay, so again, I want to repeat what Brian said. This is technically not a problem. In fact, I think there are a lot of homes throughout Scarborough and other communities where owners have vehicles parked that have markings on them for the businesses they work for or run. And in this case, you're certainly not doing any business there in your home. Yeah. So to me, that's just a non-issue, and it totally makes sense what you're using the trailer for.
How big's the trailer?
It's 7 by 12.
Oh, okay, so it's not even like food truck sizes.
No,
It's pretty-
like a utility trailer.
Yeah, okay, got it. Other question? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you very much. We will go into the board's determinations and findings. So, we'll start with Michelle on this one.
The proposal, so this is A, the proposed use will not create any unsanitary or unhealthful conditions by reason of sewage disposal, emissions to the air or water, or any other aspect of its design or operation. So I believe this one's been met. It sounds like it's actually got very little byproduct that can just go into regular household waste, and doesn't even seem like it affects waste management in extra trips or anything like that, so, no water is used. I think this one's been met.
Any other questions or discussion from the board? If I can see a show of hands that we find this to be met. That's 5-0, great. David,
The proposed use will not create unsafe vehicular or pedestrian traffic conditions when added to the existing and foreseeable traffic in the vicinity. The only vehicle would be FedEx, making, deliveries approximately every 3 weeks. FedEx trucks, UPS trucks, US Postal Service trucks are in the neighborhoods every day. So this is not any additional burden on your operation or the community.
any further discussion? Not seeing any. If I can see a show of hands, this has been met. That has been. Kyle. See.
Criteria C, the proposed use will not create public safety problems which would be substantially different from those created by existing uses in the neighborhood or require a substantially greater degree of municipal fire or police protection than existing uses in the neighborhood. I think we can make a finding that a small scale coffee roasting business does not have any public safety implications, and this would not really in any way change the demand for municipal fire or police protection.
Great. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I would add to that, they're not using natural gas or propane in their process, and unlike one other applicant that we approved recently.
Yep. Agreed. Agreed. And I think that's a notable one because, they're producing chaff, but there's no flame that could ignite it. So I think this one is, they're quite conscious of public safety on that. So any other discussion points? Not seeing any. If I can see a show of hands that this item has been met. That is unanimous. The proposed use will not result in sedimentation or erosion or have an adverse effect on water supplies. As they indicated, there's no water used in the roasting process and therefore no wastewater being produced. And the organic chaff is dry, so it's not producing a runoff that might come out of the recycling or composting bins. So I would think that we can find that this item has been met. Any further discussion? No. Seeing none, could I have a vote that we find that this has been met? It has been 5-0. Richard.
The proposed use will be compatible with existing uses in the neighborhood with respect to physical size, visual impact, intensity of use, proximity to other structures, and density of development. And I think the fact that this has been going on for 5 years without anybody even knowing it was there allows us to make this finding of fact pretty easily. So
I would agree. And I note that not only has no one raised an issue in 5 years, no one in Higgins Beach, one of the denser developed areas of our town, where the residents of Higgins Beach are no strangers to public comment in places like this if they have an issue.
easy on the residents.
Yeah. We like them; they're great, but they do live in a dense area, so they would notice, and they have not indicated anything. So I agree with you, Richard. Any other comment? Seeing none, do we agree that this criteria has been met? Yes, we do. 5-0. Michelle? This is the easy one.
You want me to do the shoreline one?
Yeah.
Okay, if it's not located in a shoreline zone,
Do-
that's been confirmed by Brian Longstaff.
Do we agree with this finding? We do. David?
The applicant has sufficient right, title, or interest in the site of the proposed use to be able to carry out the proposed use. Yes, the applicant has shown that. They provided evidence of title and interest in carry out the home occupation properly.
Great. Any other discussion for that? Seeing none, because I have show of hands that this item has been met. It has been. The applicant has, or sorry, Kyle, let's steal your thunder on item H.
Oh, well. Criteria H, the applicant, whether they have the technical and financial ability to meet the standards of this section and to comply with any conditions imposed by the board. I don't see that the board will impose any conditions here. But I
might have a couple to offer, just so you know.
oh,
After you guys can tell.
well, should we, I mean, should we know those and have a vote on those before we make a decision on criteria H?
Does the chair prefer?
I would prefer, yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And these are minor, and I think the applicant already knows this, but as a part of the conditions of, should you approve it, I think it should be conditional upon them applying for and receiving their food handler's license as well as their mobile food vendor's license, and I think they're already in process. That won't happen until July, but that should be part of, I think, the written conditions of approval.
Okay, move to include.
Okay. With that, not item, sorry, Michelle.
Didn't you say you already have it, or?
Yes,
is
we
it-
do. We have, we're current, for our Eating Place Mobile, and retailer and
That-
resale.
So do we
Ship
need
it-
That, but that's from the state.
That's from the
correct?
state, correct.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about local. I'm talking
Oh,
about
okay.
Scarborough.
Okay.
He wants the money.
I
Yeah,
see.
exactly. Got it.
Okay,
No,
I see.
I just don't want the phone calls.
Yeah, okay, okay, then, yeah, I would, given that it is a town, request, I would, again, include that. And I don't think it changes the finding of fact, though, that they would be able to meet that.
Right, so just to be clear, Brian, and I missed it, Brian, what conditions would you, what permits would you require they have?
They would need locally, they would need both their mobile food vendor's license, which we've just adopted, I think, in January of this year.
Mhm.
There's a licensing process for all food trucks, carts, whatever, that sell a food product or a drink product. That has to be done before they can do anything in Scarborough. That doesn't prohibit them from doing something in another town.
Okay.
But in Scarborough, you need that license, and it's a sticker that goes on your mobile cart, mobile vehicle, whatever it is. And then, of course, the food handler's license, local food handler's license for that all of these food services that we approve here need to go and get. And I'm terrible at remembering to do that and mention that. So I'm starting a new leaf now. Putting it out there.
Mr. Chair, if I may add just to that, and Ryan said the key word, in Scarborough, because for them to do any vending outside of the town of Scarborough, they need a license to do so in that town also.
Yeah, they need the state license, but then if the town has a licensing requirement, then they would have to get the,
Exactly.
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I know most of the towns around here do.
Yeah, definitely. So, although car shows, if you're going to Oxford County, some of those probably won't, but anyway.
So I think getting back to criteria
Yeah.
H here, I do think that the applicant has the ability to comply with any conditions, including any, I think we make a finding that any licensing requirements, should the board choose to condition this its approval of this appeal on the applicant's recipient of any such licenses, that the applicant has the ability to meet them, given that they've been operating for several years. And I think that the applicant's technical and financial ability to meet the standards of this section is shown by their ongoing operation of this business.
Great. Any further discussions?
Just one question. I mean, operationally, what does this mean? Because we're gonna approve their ability to operate, but only as long as they have their permits from the town. But they won't get the permits from the town for another, let's call it 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Does that mean that in this intervening period, they cannot operate? Now that we know about this, I mean, they've come to us for a
Yeah.
permit.
No, it's a fair question, Mr. Chair, if you want me to.
Yeah,
field that.
exactly.
I think it would be totally within keeping for the board to accept the fact that, given that they've got their state permits, they've gone through the steps they thought they had to go through.
Mhm.
This is not, as David said earlier, this is not the first time we've run into an operation, didn't know they needed a local food handler's license.
Mhm.
And the mobile food vendor thing is new as of January, and we're still doing inspections and
Yeah.
stickering of those vehicles. I think a 30, I have no intention, let me put it this way, from an enforcement perspective, I think their applications are in, or they at least know about them. Talking with the deputy chief, I think he's talked to you about
Yes.
the
Yeah, Mr.
licensing.
Brennan.
They're in process. So I think in process is good enough for the board to, nobody's going to shut them down.
The other thing is, I don't think the town has defined a sequencing of when you get your licenses versus when you would get your zoning variance to run your operation.
Why would they get a food handler's license if they don't get a zoning?
Exactly. So, you know, how they do one versus, or how they do one before the other, or do one first or whatever. They also deal with the fact that we only meet monthly and might not meet monthly sometimes. So,
Although, can we discuss, I think we should discuss the conditions separate.
yeah,
One, after we've found the criteria.
yeah, I agree. So can we vote on the criteria? And then I think, yeah, well, let's come back to this, Richard, when we establish, what am I trying to say?
The findings?
The findings and
the
the conditions.
Yeah.
Conditions, thank you. So, okay, so do we find that they have the ability to meet the conditions applied by the board? 5-0, yes. The proposed use will be compatible with existing uses in the neighborhood with respect to generation of noise and hours of operations. Again, I think this is more than met by the fact that they've been in operation for a number of years. And the neighborhood is, if they're not aware of it, then clearly this is not incompatible with the existing neighborhood. And if they are aware of it, they haven't made any motions to say that they feel that it is not compatible. So I would argue that this finding has been met. Any further discussion? Seeing none, show of hands that we find this, we do. So all findings have been met. Now, I will entertain a motion to approve the special exception request with or without any conditions that the board may see appropriate. So I'll start with Richard, or sorry, David.
Mr. Chair, do we have performance standards to consider?
Do we have
The
performance
applicant did
standards?
not provide a separate document, but as I pointed out, I think in my staff comments,
You did.
I think all of those, other than, I think the only one that wasn't addressed was, is there outside employment, not, is there one employee that is not a resident of the
And there are
of the
zero.
property? So that was the only one that wasn't really spelled out. I think everything else got taken care of in here. So I think it's at the board's discretion. Again, those are performance standards more for after the fact than they are for acceptance of the special exception, but I know it's process and practice for the board to go through those.
What I would propose then is that we accept the performance standards in their entirety
I would agree.
and then we can move on.
As before we then consider a motion for approval, do we find that the performance standards have been will have been adequately met by the appellant?
Yes.
Show of hands, that's 5, yes, so the performance standards are fine.
Thank you.
And agreed, I think that's the right approach, David, so. Most of those involve other types of businesses that are different and more disruptive, so. With that, again, I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed special exception use with or without any conditions. David,
So moved with conditions.
conditions being?
That they have applied for their special license for food service in the community. And also vending, mobile vending. And therefore, we recognize that they meet that requirement.
So can I, we have a little discussion about the conditions first. I know there's a motion pending.
Just to make it, I'll second the motion so we can
Got it.
start discussion.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
So aren't these permits doing different things? These
Yes.
permits are basically licensing you to operate, to do something in the town of Scarborough. I mean, to me, it's a separate issue. The permit, you're required to get the permit to do, X, Y, and Z. But for our purposes, we're just asking for, for zoning purposes, do they meet the special exception? So I'm inclined to approve this without conditions. And then if they need their permits for, to do whatever, mobile food handling or whatever in Scarborough or elsewhere, that's up to them. And that's basically a separate, as I see it, that's a separate determination.
Mr. Chair, I would agree. I mean, there are a lot of conditions that you have to meet in order to run a business. You need a federal tax ID, you have to file state tax, there are a lot of things that you have to do in order to operate. This one is something that Brian has an interest in because he's trying to get people to get the right applications and right permits. But I don't think we should confound the two issues either. I mean, in 2 years, one of those licenses could lapse. Does that mean that they no longer have a permit to do what they're doing?
Mhm.
Right? Once we start,
Well, but I share your comment. If their permit lapses, it doesn't affect their meeting the requirements for the zoning special exception use.
that's correct.
It does prevent them from doing business, but for reasons unrelated to the zoning code.
Then that's why I don't think we should confound the two issues.
I personally agree with it. I would go for this without
I
conditions.
would simply just point out that the way I worded this
Mhm.
is that they're already in the process
Mhm.
of getting the approvals. And we just simply want to recognize that.
Gotcha.
As opposed to making it a condition in the traditional sense.
Okay, so then maybe I could, first off, I'd like to reword the motion.
Go
So
ahead.
if maybe we could take a vote on the motion, and then if it doesn't pass, we'll have a slightly different worded motion to go forward.
I'm flexible.
Or friendly amendment, yeah, exactly. Because what I would propose is that we approve the special exception use without condition, period. And then going forward, as we talk about in the future, Brian, I like how you said it earlier, where you're kind of getting in a new mode and you're trying to do this more. We see a lot of these home food operations. We've seen bakeries. We've seen a lot of bakeries actually, and things like that. So maybe we add to the staff comment where they are in the licensing process.
That's a great idea. Can you come and remind me to do that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, if there are
I'm
bakeries and
dealing with,
coffee-
I'm dealing with applicants explaining the whole zoning procedures here. And I've been slapped on the wrist by the clerk's office for not getting them into the process. A lot of people think they've got their state
Yeah.
approvals. David's aware of this as well and the work that he does, and they think that's all they need. And I'm sort of being tasked with doing a better job of being the front line face that says, oh, by the way,
Mhm.
have you gotten your food handler's license?
Mhm.
These gentlemen were sitting in my office. It never occurred to me. We were talking about this process. It never occurred. They mentioned their trailer. It never occurred to me to ask them, have you got your mobile food vendor's license? So that's the reason. It's actually sort of coming down from above me to say, hey, can you guys, while you're doing these, I know we look at all kinds of home occupations, but if they're food related, could you please reinforce the fact that they need these things? And I just thought that putting it as a condition, knowing that they're going to apply, they're already applying,
Mhm.
that it was sort of an easy lift. If the board has an objection to it, fine, I don't care. It just means that I need to do a better job at my job, making sure that they're aware of that. It's not a permit that I issue, and that's why I've done a bad job at it.
Well, if I may add to this,
Sure.
thank you. All right, so this is something new to Brian, obviously, and what I'm trying to do is just to be able to show that Brian's doing his job here.
Mhm.
Okay, and if he's, getting pressure from up above, wherever that might be, okay? To have that in writing, shows that it's in process. Okay, and everything's gonna be okay. And then once the process starts, they're told when it's time for renewal, they're told everything they've gotta do, all the hoops they gotta jump through. So that's the only reason I recommend we put this in.
If I can weigh in briefly, I mean,
Sure.
I sympathize with Brian's situation here. I mean, I don't feel like the code enforcement officer's job, though, is to ensure that the business owners, recognize all the various permits. And I know there are a lot that they need to apply for and licenses they need to get. And that's on the business owner. So our job is just to figure out, do they meet the special exception appeal requirements or don't they? And so I think that we should just vote to either approve or deny the appeal straight up. And then the business owner can figure out, depending on the needs of their business, what permits and licenses that they need to do whatever they plan and want to do.
I would agree with that.
If,
I would
if
just
you guys want to
double check.
do that, that's fine. Can I just ask that maybe the board help whenever we have these to make sure that it comes up
Yes,
in the
we-
discussion?
yeah.
That
Yeah,
way, I
fair
think
enough.
we've covered that base then.
That's fair. I
Yeah.
think that, I think that is fair.
I think I just add one more thing. Having dealt with a lot of new businesses,
Mhm.
it's not easy.
No, I,
It's not easy to research all this to see what's required.
Mm.
It is really hard. Unless you have somebody guiding you through the process, you can get lost very, very easily.
I think though, the problem is the code enforcement officer the right person to be guiding you through the business licensing process? We almost need, if, we need a SEDCO person. You know, we need somebody that a new business owner or a new business entrepreneur can go to at SEDCO who has the guidebook saying, here's what, okay, you want to do this? Here's what you do. Here, you need the following licenses. Oh, and if you're doing it from this zoning, the R2 zone, you need a special exception too. But that's probably too much to ask for either the code enforcement officer or the town clerk to be that navigator
I
function.
would make this distinction. If it comes before our board,
Mm.
Brian is responsible.
I-
So
Can we get back on track and actually vote on this?
thank you.
Sorry,
Gotcha.
I just,
Okay.
I wanted to also add that I've been trying to add this for a little bit, that I just wanted, that Kyle, what he said, I'm 100% on board with it. I don't think this is something that we should be deciding. Now, we can verbally tell them, and I think we should say, go get your local license, make sure you have your stuff together,
Mm.
but I don't really feel like this is in our scope right now.
I would agree. So, okay, we've got a proposed amendment to take any additional conditions other than just approving the variance as it is, period. How do we feel about that one? Yeah, so could I see a show of hands?
Just to be clear,
This is,
the motion on the table is to approve with the condition.
no, we actually have a second one, which is your friendly amendment.
All right, so the friendly amendment is to strike, and you're okay with that?
Yeah.
David, because it's your motion, so
Yes.
as long as you're okay with it, good.
Okay, so the amendment passes, or show of hands that we agree with that, the amendment passes. And then could I call the roll for the approval of that motion?
Peter Freilinger,
Yes.
Kyle Noonan,
Yes.
David Bork,
Yes.
Michelle Stevenson,
Yes.
and Richard Silkman.
Yes.
I almost want to give Michelle the gavel on this one, but that is approved. Thank you for dealing with that. These are sometimes process things that end up coming up on an individual appeal. Thank you for your patience and good luck with the business, or good continuing luck with the business.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. That was excellent discussion. I think Mr. Silkman, you started it. It's a nuance of going from a home-based business into the trailer, and where the two, it's a conundrum, and we're figuring it out. I got a email from Deputy Chief Brennan, and he emailed me all of the information, and so we're working on that as we speak, and we're gonna get that in.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna make contact with, there was a POC that was in the email to talk about, all of our events that we have between now and the July meeting. We're hoping.
Well, I was gonna say. Thank you to David for pointing out that even though we try to make sure when we're in compliance with everything, sometimes it's a little difficult to know where you're at. Sometimes you just think that the state level is kind of the blanket over everything. But Mr. Longstaff was super helpful when we met with him, walking us through all the steps that we needed so that we knew how to be in compliance. So I just had a few questions because of all the discourse that we had. It sounded like when we do go for our food handler's license, are we going to be appearing in front of a different board, or is that still your?
That's not us.
That's not you guys.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
The licensing is done through the town clerk's office.
Okay.
Yeah, both of those will require town council.
Okay. Because full disclosure, I mean, we had, before the trailer, we had the little cart, and we go to like the Scarborough Farmers Market. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and literally, we don't
No
need full
problem.
disclosure.
Okay, no
We-
full
because
disclosure.
it's not to- And I'm on the long range planning committee, which dealt with the original food truck
Okay.
thing. That is a new ordinance.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
town clerk's office and the town are getting used to it.
Okay.
So, again, you'll need to go through that separate process for the licensing, but
Separate people, okay.
it will be, they'll ask you, did you get your social exception variance
Okay,
from us?
okay.
And you'll say yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're, yeah.
Mr. Chair, may I throw in a shameless plug?
Actually, no, because Michelle's already trying to move us along. Let's, okay, because I was gonna save it for,
Michelle.
I was gonna save it for matters at the end, but
Right.
go for it, okay.
All right, so when when you really want to start growing.
Yeah.
Okay, come and see us at Fort Food Lab. Yes.
For sure.
I'm a consultant to Fort Food Lab.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, the last one, and the patience of the McCanns is appreciated. For their variance number 2775, their limited reduction of yardage size variance for, is it 422 Phillip Street?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, correct.
Thank you. You're already up there. If you could give us your name and then give a short description of the variance and why you need it.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Connor McCann. Thank you guys for the time tonight. We want to add a garage to our house. We live right down the street off Sawyer Road. And we need a couple feet extra to the 15-foot side back to complete the garage and fit it into our plans.
Gotcha. And as I look at the diagram, it looks like it's a couple feet on the front, so it's versus the front setback.
The front setback is okay. It's the,
You can't see it because it's an orange line.
sorry,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
See where my cursor is?
Yeah.
See where the cursor is. Move the cursor a little bit. Oh, yep, okay.
That's the front. And so they're within their setback, the 30-foot front setback.
Okay.
It's the side setback here that's the issue.
I see what you're talking about. Okay. Okay, understood. Thank you. Okay, terrific. Any questions up front from the board?
I wasn't entirely clear to me. Is there an existing garage?
No garage. No, there's a shed there right now. Our driveway leads to the shed. We're just moving the shed and putting a garage in.
Okay.
Okay, we have, any other questions? Nope. We have a letter of support included in the materials from Butter at 20 Phillip Street, the Browns that support the variance. Actually, no, I'm not yet, but there doesn't appear to be any. I'm just going through what we've already received. So, and then I will open it up. I believe that's all we received, Brian, in writing. Was that one letter? And then we'll open it up for public comment. But there is none, or it's not unless, no, okay, I got it. Then that will close public comment. And we will go through the requirements for the limited size. Let me get, there we are. So the well,
That's the draft.
it also has the one.
It does have-
So who wants to start this one? Richard? Oh, that's a good point. Yes, we will read them as a record. Thank you. So the first one is the existing buildings or structures on the lot for which the limited reduction of yard size is requested were erected prior to July 3, 1991.
Yes.
Okay. Number two, the requested reduction is reasonably necessary to permit the owner or occupant of the property to use and enjoy the property in essentially the same manner as other similar properties located in the district.
Yes. Yep.
Yes. And for everyone's reference, it's in the R4 district. Due to the physical features of the lot and or the location of existing structures on the lot, it would not be practical to construct the proposed expansion, enlargement, or new structure in conformance with the current applicable yard size requirements.
Yes. Correct.
Okay. Yeah. And the effects and impacts of the enlargement, expansion, or new building or structure on existing uses in the neighborhood will not be substantially different from or greater than the impacts of effects of a building or structure which conforms to the yard size requirement.
Yep.
And you have not yet commenced construction.
Correct.
Correct. And the code enforcement officer can attest to that. Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll go through the list. Richard, do you want to start us off?
On the lot for which the limited reduction in yard sizes requested were erected prior to July 3rd, 1991, or the lot is a vacant, non-conforming lot of record. The records in the town show that the building was constructed in 1975, which is prior to 1991, so this criteria is met.
Any further comment from the board? With a show of hands, we agree that this finding has been met. Yes. Number 2, the requested reduction is reasonably necessary to permit the owner or occupant of the property to use and enjoy the property essentially the same manner as other properties utilized in the zoning district. The R4 district has plenty of 2-car garages. And therefore this would, if anything, make it more normalized in terms of how this property is used relative to other properties. So I believe we can safely find that this has been met. Any other comments? Seeing none, a show of hands that we agree with this finding being met. We do. Kyle.
The third criteria asks us to determine whether the physical features of the lot or the location of existing structures on the lot make it impractical or result in it would not being practical to construct the proposed expansion or new structure in conformance with the currently applicable yard size requirements. And I think that we can find that this criteria is satisfied. It's, I don't think that it really is practical to require a homeowner to build their garage in their front yard or their backyard, even if it wasn't the case that they had in their backyard a hilly landscape and a significant amount of trees. And I think that applications like this are a good reminder of why we have exceptions and this process for letting people get around some of the requirements in our zoning code. So I think that this finding is, we can make a finding that this criteria is satisfied.
Great. Any other comments? Seeing none, do we find that this has been met? We do. David.
The impacts and effects of the enlargement, expansion, or new building or structure on existing uses in the neighborhood will not substantially differ from or greater than the impacts and effects of building and structures which conforms to the yard size requirement. It's important to note here that the request is only for 4 feet, and that the proposed garage is not parallel to the property line, and that in fact the variance in the other end of the garage is only 1 foot. If we don't grant this, then it would be practically impossible and impractical to put 2 cars in this garage. It'd be a little bit too small. So I think it's very reasonable for us to grant this variance, and it's something that we can do. We can grant a variance of up to 5 feet.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we agree that this item has been met. Unanimous. And number 5, last, Michelle.
The applicant has not commenced construction and they say they have not begun.
I think we found that to be met. Show of hands, please. All 5 criteria have been met. Then with that, may I have a motion to approve variance 2775?
So moved.
David, thank you. Second from Michelle. Any further comments? Doreen, if you would call the roll.
Peter Freilinger,
Yes.
Kyle Noonan,
Yes.
David Bork,
Yes.
Joe Stevenson.
Yes.
And Richard Silverman.
Yes.
The variance is granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you for your patience.
Don't forget to get your building permit.
Yeah.
I didn't put it as a condition of approval.
I will say too, thank you very much. We appreciate that. We still got through everything in 1 hour and 20 minutes, so I'm still gonna say that we're doing our jobs pretty well.
Despite our best efforts.
Despite our best
Make it
efforts.
As long as we could.
So I was gonna say a couple of things. First of all, good discussion on that. I do think this committee should do its best, and Richard, you do a great job of holding us to this, and stick to our knitting, which is we deal with variances to the zoning code, approvals and special exceptions as stated in the zoning code. And getting much beyond that, I think, puts us in more peril than it actually helps us out. So I think the more that we stick just to what's required under the zoning code itself, the better for us. And leave the other stuff to the town. Now, that being said, one of the things that we get at this forum is information that's useful for the town. So I think I will take it upon myself as chair to do two things. First off, with Autumn and with Brian, have a discussion with the town clerk's office about, hey, let's keep things on the right playing field, number one. And number two, I am going to talk with Sedco. I think one of the things that we encountered in some of the conversation that we had from the Giuseppe's folks, something lacking that Sedco could meaningfully provide to the business community here in Scarborough is a point of reference that can take you through all of the various things you need when you're establishing a new business. That might be zoning related, that might be code related, that might be state or town permitting related. But that's kind of a Sedco thing. It's not even a town thing. It's a
And
Sedco
it
thing.
more than likely would be like a set of links linking you to the other, so just compiling it all in one spot for them.
Correct. Having somebody who compiles those links and then once a year updates them and make sure there hasn't been a new law that they have to incorporate it in it. So I will take it upon myself as chair to have that conversation with Sedco and with and facilitate the conversation with the other parts of
And we'll try to remind you, Brian, or we'll try to remind the appellants when it's
Yeah,
a business.
I don't want to overstate that.
Yeah.
I was only raising a point that it
Yeah.
has been brought to our attention that this is a great chance to make sure that they know
Yeah.
that some of these other things have to happen. I also want to mention that both planning board and zoning board will be going to online permitting applications now.
Mhm.
You guys won't have to deal with that, but
Gotcha.
that from the application intake perspective, that's a great chance to do exactly what you just said, put links to these
Yeah.
other things. And we can do that easily with the cloud permit system that we're going to.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen it yet, but
Yeah.
it's coming. And so I think this will, I don't want you marching into what I'm trying to say, don't march into the clerk's office and get me in more trouble.
No. I'll
Just stick to your knitting, like you said.
no, I don't mind. I got to get my dog license.
That's
too,
right.
God forbid. So, actually, yeah, no, actually, I that's a separate issue. I have to go to the clerk's office. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. We're not going to get you in trouble. But it's one of those things where, because I not push back, but I say to the town clerk, hey, when you get a new home or a new home business application, could you remind them to check whether they need a zoning application? So it kind of can work both ways and everybody can help one another. So it's all about helping. That's that. It sounds like we will have a board agenda for next month.
I believe so.
So, okay, it is July and I'm conscious of people's holiday and summer plans. So just let us know as soon as you can if next month doesn't work. And while August is still outstanding too, check for August as well, just because it is the summertime. So we should just be aware of that. And if that's it, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And second
Second.
from Dave, all in favor? Show of hands. This meeting is adjourned.